Capuchin Thalir online programs. This is part of the Solanas KC Holistic Welfare Center, Viluppuram in India. We give motivational trainings and empowerment for religious and lay leaders, formators and formees, teachers and students, families, parents and children. We also give counseling to the individuals and the communities and the families. We conduct retreats and monthly recollections. Welcome to Solanas KC Holistic Welfare Center. Contact the Director Nitya YFM Cap. totalexcellencenow@gmail.com. Dear brothers and sisters, this week we are focusing on the need for the formators while they are dealing with the formees. We'll be discussing in these days understanding the youth of today, being led by God's experience, pilgriming with the formees, and after that we'll be listening to latent and manifest motives in the formees and the self-care for the formators. Today, we are happy to welcome Fr.Jerry. Welcome, Fr.Jerry.
Today and tomorrow and thereafter. And thereby I know that certainly you will be benefiting by these sharings and sessions, not only based on my own words and thoughts, much more going by your backdrop. So I call upon you to recollect and recapture your experiences in the field of and the ministry of formation, and so that what I say will match and so may come corresponding, and thereby you will find the thoughts and the reflections quite inviting and at the same time quite informing and much more inviting us to put into certain eventual implementations. I like to begin my section saluting one and all for the simple reason, and you are involved in the initial stage of formation as a junior director or directresses, or novitiate or pre-novitiate, postulancy, aspirancy, director or directresses, or diocesan early stage of formation and the formators. And accordingly, it's today in the modernized world of today, and to be a formator, and especially in the early stage of formation, it's not at all easy. It's not at all soft and smooth and sweet. And you accepted the challenge, and accordingly you are putting your best. My appreciations and my congratulations, my best wishes, also my humble prayers, so that your ministry of formation will become all the more fruitful. In the words of Jesus, 34, 64, if not 100-fold. I have divided my presentation in 4 parts. The first one is nothing but set the ball rolling. Set the ball rolling. And setting introductory notes. I speak like this so that I will be much more interacting with you. And this will be the first part. As we move on to the other parts, I will tell you so that you can also travel with me and pilgrim with me, and so that we will really make the sessions quite meaningful, quite purposeful, quite fruitful, and why not quite beautiful. Some introductory notes. And we are all formators, I said, and this has been arranged for the International Formators Program. What I'm going to say, you cannot deny. There is nobody who could be a formator to others. Today we are living in a world where each one, he or she, has to be a formator to oneself. And accordingly, even the so-called formators or atones formees. And there's a kind of a give and take process. In the process, we learn from the candidates, novices, juniors, postulants, aspirants, pre-novices, and whatnot. So also they also learn from us. There's a kind of a give and take, a kind of a mutual sharing. This is one of the introductory notes. So that what I'm going to share in course of time, focusing on the topic of today, we have to take that into consideration. We have to learn from the youths of today. We have to learn from the young men and boys and girls of today. And gone are the days that we can think of one way that we give and they are formed and we are totally in charge and totally responsible for the field and the ministry of formation. Gone are the days. This is an introductory note number 1. Number 2, very interesting one. What is that one? The title that is given to me is Understanding the Youth of Today. Understanding the Youth of Today. Look at my comment. When you use the word understand, say it more than once. Understand. Understand. You get the note. We have to stand under. If you don't stand under, there is no point of understanding. Put it another way. We cannot stand above and understand. We have to come down. Come down. As the Lord Jesus himself, and who was the formator excellence, par excellence formator, he came down, emptied himself, and got into the very milieu in order to form the humanity and thereby invite the whole human humanity to a new level of life in order to give life and life in abundance. John 10:10. So the second note, introductory note, is nothing but stand under in order to understand. There comes I move on to the third one. And what is that one? Namely, today youths are found to be fun-loving and media obsessed. And much more, they are being diverted and distracted immensely. I tell you, that's the way they are being looked at. Pope Francis himself, in the particular post-synodal exhortation statement and the documentation, again the Christus Vidit, he says, Christ is alive, he says, they tend to look at the youth as problems, dangers, but that is not going to help them or also going to help us or help the church or the society at large. We need to make a shift. We need to make a shift. And the shift is, we need to see the positive side, the proactive side, the productive side of the younger generation. And as formators, all the more we need to have the particular outlook. And we need to really get into the youngsters of today in order to get their psychology, anthropology, and even sexuality, much more spirituality of the upcoming human generations. And that's my next introductory note. And you are following my line of thought. Let me move to just one more and thereby I conclude. And what is that one? We are involved in field of formation. You will agree with me when I say what I'm going to say, or when I say that's about 35%, plus or minus 35% of people live during the years of formation. Sometimes even they leave towards the end of the formation, prior to ordination or prior to final profession. And we cannot find fault with them. We have to even appreciate them. Even that one we have to look at very positively, because they have got the particular courage to take leave of religious consecrated life or the ordained life. They don't want to get ordained for nothing, and they don't want to get consecrated for nothing. And if there's something is missing, they don't find it is wrong to say goodbye, bye-bye, even to the ordination and profession. The way they live. So as I said, plus or minus about 1/3, 35%, 33, 34, 35%, they live during the years of formation, either early stages of formation, even the later stages of formation. Even now that takes me to the next introductory note. And what is that one? That is very, very crucial one. Today we have to take that one quite emphatically and give to ourselves quite challengingly, and that is nothing but this one. We are not preparing people, forming people, so to say, for our own religious congregations. And we are not preparing people, forming them even for the church at large. It may be a little debatable, but you will agree with me when I say the church, as per the Second Vatican Council is only a sacrament. Only a sacrament. When you say that it's a sacrament, that means it signifies something else. And the mission is more important. And the new humanity is more important. And the new earth and new heaven, book of Revelation, chapter 21, verses 1 to 7, is our target, is our mission, is our destination. We are moving toward that particular goal for which the church, the Christianity, has come to be one of the channels of salvation and one of the sacraments of liberation and one of the vehicles of humanization and one of the chosen means of God's mission of transformation. If that's the case, church itself is a sacrament. Sacrament. If that's the case, now look at my another note, namely religious congregations. Whichever congregation you belong to, I belong to the Society of Jesus. I have to be quite conscious. The Jesuit society to which I belong is not the ultimate end. I'm not formed to be a Jesuit alone. Being a Jesuit and being a Christian, being a follower of Christ Jesus, I like to serve the mission of God, the Father and Mother. And I am wedded and committed. And you will agree with me when I say, we all are committed, called to be committed, and to really put in our best and might for the ultimate goal. And that is Almighty God's mission. And they will prepare people. Now look at the way I'm ending the introductory note with one more. What is that one? That means when about 35% of people leave, we should even appreciate they are taking a decision. When they leave, let them go as younger ones of the humanity to put in their best and might for God's mission. They may miss what we call the congregation. They may get out of the bus of a religious institute. They may leave the seminaries of the dioceses and archdioceses. But they are not meant for dioceses, archdioceses alone. They are not meant for the religious congregations and institutes alone. Much more, they are for God's mission. When they leave, we need to really wish them all the best, and so that they will do all the best as per their own capacities and abilities, or for God's mission. God's mission. Let me add one further note before I move to the second part of my presentation. That note also is important. I should not miss it. What is that one? If you say, no, Jerry, my name is Jerry. No, Jerry, all the 100%, I wish and hope and pray they stay back. And I don't want to see any candidate, any novice, any junior, any seminarian leave the congregations of the dioceses. If he says so, that has to be really challenged in a way. In what way? In what way? If all remain, that means our religious congregations, our dioceses and archdioceses all come to be comfort zone. There is no challenge. And so they like to become goody-goody members. And they become rather devotees of Jesus rather than disciples of Jesus. They are not going to lift a finger for the gospel mission. And they like to enjoy life. Then you cannot find fault with them. And let me end it where I began. Peripherally, superficially, outwardly, and they may say the youths are today fun-loving. True. That means even at any stage of human evolution, every stage, every what you call younger one would have been fun-loving. Why not? The age matters, and they would have been also like to be with convenience and comforts. But the point is, today the youngsters, in spite and despite of the comfort-seeking, fun-loving, they also give a special information to us. What's that one? As the formators, so-called formators or facilitators, animators, we need to really see that we throw challenges to them, and thereby bring the youngsters to the track of God's mission. They are ready to accept the challenges. What I said a little earlier, let me now recollect. If no challenges, they won't leave the congregations. If there are no challenges, they like to remain in the nunneries, in the seminaries, the dioceses, and the congregations, because it has become comfort zone. When they leave, as I said earlier, we appreciate them. Let them do God's mission. Let them have the choice. Let them have their own discernment, but let them make the dedication. But when they are inside, we need to throw the challenges such a way that they really respond to the challenges. This takes me to the second part of my presentation. You look at this one, the title I'm going to put it this way. That is critical challenges from the youth. Critical challenges from the youth. This is my second part of my presentation. Critical challenges from the youth. They are now telling us something. And we need to listen to them. So the formation begins with them. And they are the, what we call, kick-starting the process of formation. And they are the beginners, initiators of their own formation. And we want to only respond. That means critical challenges from the youth. When I said repeatedly, we need to listen to them so that we can respond to them. I am now referring here to again to that particular post-synodal document of Pope Francis, who says the youth have got a lot to tell us, and we need to listen to them. We need to have the patience, and they are throwing challenges to us, and there are certain challenges to convey and communicate to us, and better to listen to them before we also place the challenges before them. Now come to that one. I'm not going to take a big list, but I pondered over last night and today while preparing myself for this particular session. And there I have not highlighted, I'm going to highlight only 4 major sections of the challenges that we could gather and muster and collect and collate from youth and the younger generations of today. Number 1, the challenge from youth, sociological. The second one, ecclesiastical, that means church, Christian point of view. The third one is a religious, congregational. And the fourth one, missiological. So in the second section, second part, there are 4 viewpoints from where the youths of today are placing challenges before us. And we need to also take them into consideration and thereby understand the minds, the hearts, and the aspirations, and the expectations. At the same time, what we call it, the observations of the younger generations of today. Sociologically, number 1. Though there are many, but I have picked up and selected just one. What is that one? Consumerism. And that has become a big challenge. Why? From the second part of the last century, we are living at a time when the science and technology have really developed enormously, and lot of what we call commodities are made available at our doorstep. And the consumeristic mindset has got in. And because of which consequences also come in. Again, consequence, just I refer to one. And what is that one? Namely, when you become consumeristic, one of the consequences would be, namely, then you become individualistic, very subjective, very exclusive. Others don't matter. So today, the younger generation, when they come from that milieu, and we need to stand under them, as I said earlier. And they cannot immediately find fault with them. And the sociological challenges as such, and they are product of today's. And we need to really analyze that particular perspective with certain critique. And what is that one? That means consumerism, again, would have been part and parcel of human family down the evolution. But today we are living in a modernized, globalized, privatized, and liberalized and digitalized scenario. Therefore, consumerism becomes all the more dominating factor over the humanity, particularly the upcoming generation. They are born into it, and they have to stand under to understand that particular mindset, and they cannot poo-poo them. And because of becoming individualistic, and as I said earlier, subjective, and they will even get into another what is called throwaway culture, and they will start throwing away not only simple use to things like spoons, plates, or cups. Earlier we had paper cups. Okay, we can throw away after usage. Or paper plates we used to throw away. Today, the particular consumeristic way of proceeding contribute to that particular way of treating others, virtues, values also being thrown away. That means not throwing away only certain things like cups, plates, and spoons. Even throwing away values, throwing away virtues, throwing away certain noble perspectives, throwing away the customs and cultures, throwing away certain civilizing and humanizing traits. At one particular context, Pope Francis says, we even throw away certain basic things. And he gives a very, what we call basic example. He says, we are thrown away. What we taught in the past, now we're being thrown away. The words that should be on our lips all the time. What is that one? He says, thank you. When somebody serves you, and the thank you should be automatically and spontaneously should come. Missing today. They are thrown away even that. We take others' support and help for granted. We don't become grateful, and the gratitude is dismissed. Or when we ask something, we don't even say, please give me. Or something, we have done something wrong. We don't use the word sorry. Sorry. Our face may like to show that particular attitude, but it takes courage to say sorry. But is that sorry, or please, thanks, or congratulations, this also being thrown away. And when we now involved in the field of formation, Ministry of Formation, we need to also form people and the youngsters as they are coming from this particular background, that they also learn into this normal and natural human way of life. And Pope Francis, in that another write-up, puts up this one. Even the parents have to, as a formators, as a teachers, and they also have to teach this one. For example, he puts, even if they want children bring something, they should not say, after all my son, after all my daughter, and he bought it, my daughter got it. Even there, even the mother, the father, the parents should say, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So sociological challenge, I said, is a consumerism, but there are different manifestations to the extent possible. I have given you certain consequences and examples. At the end of my presentation, certainly there will be time for clarification. At the time, you are welcome to ask anything more, and I will be at your service. Good. I move on immediately to the second critical challenge coming from ecclesial point of view. Here, Pope Francis, for that matter, you and I, as a members of the Catholic Church, have to be really and genuinely, and become more and more transparent. In what sense? Accepting the what we call scandals all around. As per as a survey, there are about 15% of the consecrated men and women. Roughly about 25% of the ordained men folk. They may priests, diocesans, archdiocesans. I wish it's only in percentage. That means 15 to 25 is a kind of a 1/6 to 1/4 of the ordained and consecrated community today is seen, and they have been viewed from what we call financial scandals, sexual scandals, And the conscience has got so diluted. Even scandals are now being, in a way, explained away. And Pope Francis says, in that particular context, you will find the church, a Pope Francis himself says, you will find the church a nuisance. It tells the youth, it tells the younger generation. You will even find your presence in the Catholic Church of today an irritant. It irritates you because scandals are rather galore and certainly you may not be able to stomach. And what would be what we call the stage of life as far as the youngsters are concerned, they also looking up to priests and the religious with a certain expectation. That means they like to see, and the ordained and the consecrated will become source of inspiration and source of edification and source of invitation, and so that they can take off a certain what we call elements and features from their lives and see that they can follow their footsteps, so to say, and they may become more and more closer to Jesus and become more and more closer to God the Father and Mother. When the scandals are there, how can we expect them to love the church as their mother? When the mother is rather, in a way, put it even plainly, mother is found rather corroded, corrupted, contaminated. I don't know whether I can use the word, but the word comes to my mind, and sorry for using a strong word, when the mother is being raped, and that's happening. And there was a time we were putting all the scandals under the carpet. Today we are living in a time, in the media time, things are rather visible, evident, and accordingly we cannot hide the facts. And I tell you, namely the last 7 years, living under the pontificate of Pope Francis, he at the very outset of his pontificate in the year 2013, after getting elected on the 13th of March, one of his first press conferences, he made it clear, namely, I don't want to be obsessed with the scandal and the stories of that particular type coming all over. At the same time, I don't want to run away from them. I want to face them. I want the church also to come to encountering the scandals, and so that they will know how to really take hold of and go beyond, and thereby really become clean and clear. And Francis himself says, here even the youngsters can criticize and challenge the church and the ordained and the consecrated, so that they can also contribute our conversion. You have to really give a clap for Pope Francis for giving this particular invitation to the youngsters, and thereby to say, one side you may be put off seeing the scandals in the church, and thereby we understand your what you call reaction and opposition. But then you don't stop with that, and you need to really convert your reaction to a certain proaction in terms of contributing to the priests and the religious of today, so that we also will become clean and clear in the process. Good. From there I move on to the third critical challenge. Let me say that I'm still in the second part of my presentation. I'm hopeful of finishing by the time we will have some time for clarification and whatnot. The third one is in terms of congregations, and especially in terms of religious life. I know, I am told by Father Nithya, namely about 20 people from 20 countries are listening to me right now, 20 plus, and a good number of them are religious men and women. But there is also possible what you call formators of seminaries of the diocese and archdiocese. But whichever context you belong to, or whichever diocese or congregation you belong to, there's one thing is happening that we cannot deny. What is that one? Nothing but this one. Lots of compromises. Compromises. And they go through long formations for our ordination and profession. At the end of that particular formation, they solemnly get ordained. and very solemnly we celebrate our consecration. But what happens next? Then in course of time, we become rather complacent. They become stagnated, and we become compromise seeking. I pause for a while for the simple reason we need to travel into the court of our own conscience at this particular juncture. It's not talking about other priests and other religions. I am talking to myself. I'm inviting you to travel into yourself. And the court of conscience, you check with yourself, own self. And you cannot deny. I cannot deny. There are compromises in our life. And younger generations are not going to be silent before this scenario. And they may even become violent. And that means in what sense? They may say that you leave the homes, leave the families, and you leave, for example, your kith and kin, and you say that you are going through lots of formation and getting ordained and they're professed. But after your lives are not at all spectacular in terms of your dedication. Compromises right and left. Begin small. Somehow get into our lives. There is a saying, context creates consciousness. True. We are living in a very, what we call it, in a sophisticated scenario. Just about 50, 60 years ago, for example, prior to Second Vatican Council, that means in the first part of last century, 20th century, and there people were running from pillar to post, so to say, for their meaningful life. But they could not even imagine, you would have not dreamt, that just 100 years later, that means around this time, when you and I are living, they are living with luxuries. And what you call it, we, in the course of time, we tend to forget. We tend to forget the promises that we are given, the vows we have made, and compromises come in, both individually and collectively. I just had one more point, one more thought on this issue. What is that one? What is it? Even congregationally. For example, we conduct lots of chapters. We move from chapter to chapter, but we move to chapter, not much of any reformation, not much of a transformation, but every chapter gives you further allowances, further permissions, further openings. Put it in simple language, further compromises. And we say pocket money is raised. We say home visit days are increased. Nothing wrong. But at that time, what is being missed is something wrong. When we become our center, we center, we forget for what we have come. And the upcoming generation, the younger generation, who are very, very keenly observing all these things, they may or may not say it to us plainly, to our face, but they are still conveying to us in their silence, through their silence. So when we say we have to understand the youth of today, and this particular dimension also has to be taken into consideration, and thereby we have to go through certain conversion so that younger generation will be attracted to our life. Who said this? Again, Pope Francis. Pope Francis, some other context, he said, I'm not going to refer to every context, though I remember this one better because I have to save time. Let me now put it this way. Pope Francis puts this way: don't promote vocations by advertisement. Don't promote vocations from younger generations by advertisement, by publicity. Why? When you make a publicity, go by advertisement, whether you like it or not, the visibility of your dedication is something missing. So we need to advertise, we need to publish, so that they look at the colorful advertisements. and colorful banners and very colorful gatherings of the youngsters. And then you advertise and then seek their coming in entry, so to say. Whereas Pope Francis says, don't promote by advertisement, but promote vocation by your attraction. Your life should attract. And they should understand you as you tend to understand them, so that the mutual understanding will help one another. And we understand their observation, critical challenge. Then we respond such a way, namely that, okay, we go through certain reformation, transformation, changes and conversion, so to say, so that the compromises can be decreased, our conviction can be increased. So as Saint John the Baptist said, I decrease, you increase, referring to his cousin, that is Jesus. But now I am borrowing the phrase and the sentence, and then emulating to our context. And what is that one? Our compromises should decrease, and so that our conviction, commitment should increase, and that will certainly attract younger generation. And in the process, we need to listen to the critical challenges, observation made by upcoming younger generations. Last one is missiological challenge, critical challenge that the youth is placing before us. And that is commercialization. Now everything has become business. And when we now promote what we call conduct vocation comes, and then we talk about our congregation charism, and during our formation is we talk about our constitution, and we talk about our regulation, etc., etc., etc. But at the end of the day, those who are God ordained and those who are consecrated, they are getting into business. I know I'm not talking more than what I have prepared. The Holy Spirit is talking through me. I allow myself to be taken over by the Spirit of God. And you check, I check, and we check our own respective dioceses, archdioceses, or our own religious congregations, our communities. They go only for money-making endeavors. And we still shamelessly call them ministries. They are not ministries, they are markets. They are markets. And at that time, we set aside the charism of our founders and foundresses. And all the formations that we are, orientations and the motivations that you are given to the youngsters down the years of formation are being set aside. And all are now becoming teachers and professors. Why? One example. Why? Now the education field has become thoroughly and tremendously and terribly commercialized. Manufacturing. And the COVID-19 has contributed even more. And they collect, though online sessions are going on, they collect full fees in the name of giving salaries to our faculty members. I'm not denying that particular fact. At the same time, there is a certain commercializing their proceeding cannot be denied. Otherwise, how come? We only think of our founder and foundresses on the day of their, what we call it, feast. And we salute them, we honor them, we talk about them in a very, very huge way on their feast days. But afterwards, the charism is set aside. All get into what we call commercializing enterprises. And in course of time, they even bring down social action, bring down village action, bring down pastoral action. How many provinces and congregations are preparing the youngsters today? But this particular one, at least there should be certain budgeting of the personnel. If there are 10, okay, I have 1/3 for institutional ministry and keep another 1/3 for the movemental ministry. Keep another 1/3 for the, what we call it, upcoming creative ministries. Movement ministries which are already there can be social, pastoral, whatnot. Upcoming creative ministries. Why? We talk about them in our chapters. For example, the church today is now talking about migrants, talking about transsexuals, and talking about those who are sexually assaulted and those who are displaced. And they really do not missiologically focus our attention on them adequately. I tell you, every congregation may be doing a bit. Every congregation may be doing something that is not now being denied. But what is being highlighted, underlined by this particular presentation is, namely, when we need to understand the youth of today, we need to see their point of view, because they have got a comments to make. They say, I can even get married and be a professor. I can teach in your college, your school itself. Why should I become a sister? Why should I become a priest? Why should I become a brother and get into your institutional ministry? And now look at this way, collect money for your institute. And they're raising question. This is what I said earlier. We need to stand under. Now you see the particular point why I made that introductory note. Good. This we have now done the second one. We are moving to the third one. Look at the third one. That is consoling challenges of the youth. If the second one is critical, is a critical challenges from the youth, challenges of the youth. And whereas this one is now consoling challenges. And this may be, you may not expect this one, but this morning when I prepared for this presentation, I am really grateful to the inspiration of the Spirit of God to focus on this particular one as my third part of presentation. Because when I use the last one, critical, but that is rather negative, but the analytical, at the same time I have to move to the positive, and there are certain proactive and protective and challenges that are available with the youth of today. We need to also understand the positive side. And there again, I have now got four ones. Four ones, all starting with E. The last one, the critical, I have put all four in C, so that I get it. In case you have not got my thing, I just make a recollection of those 4C that I brought under the second one. And that is consumerism, sociologically, corruption, ecclesially, compromises, congregationally, and commercialization, missiological. Consumerism, corruption of Christian life, compromises with our charisms, and fourth one, commercialization of our ministries' missions. That is critical. Now we are coming to the next third part, that is positive side. And today the upcoming generations, though, as I said more than once, may look rather what we call it a danger, so to say. But they also have got something to tell us, and we need to really identify and recognize those positive and productive and proactive perspectives of the new generations and ones of today. Then in terms of four. The first one is exposition. Today, youngsters are very much exposed to the wider realities. They have a broad picture with all our orientations and formations. The last century, because I belong to last century, especially in terms of my formation, I belong to the last century. My formation got over about 35 years ago. But for you also possible, I'm not asking you immediately. But what I want to say, namely, be well to the formation years down the decades, and most of us, maybe also of the previous century. Now what happens is, at that time, we had only a small world before us. We were rather limited in exposure. We know here, we know there, but what is the other side of the globe? And what is beyond the globe? And today with all the media, Google and whatnot, and they have got exposed to wider realities, they have got bigger picture. And as Father Nithya, while introducing me, said that I am also involved in some way or other in the formation of the Jesuits and associate with the sector, formation sector, in terms of other congregations and dioceses to some extent. Now coming to that one, I know the new generations have got a lot to tell me because of their exposure. And they are rather well updated, they are well informed, and their skills are at their fingertips. And even as Father Nithya said, this is the first day I'm using Zoom. And I did not know till this morning. And only at noon I learned. And I'm not very sure whether I'm doing the job properly. And I think since the moderator, Pastor Ben or Father Nithya have not come in, they are not coming to tell me that Miss, I am doing the job of communicating myself. But still, at the back of my head, I'm afraid whether I'm really reaching out to you. But I am doing my best. But anyway, I have to honestly say, I'm rather illiterate in this media communication. But today, youngsters, they have come up and the exposition is something superb. And we are in need of their informations to us. And we need to really learn from them with all sense of humility and simplicity. Number 2E, that is education. I am not only referring to the formal education, but education has now got into the what we call the blood system of the upcoming generation. The right to education, which was not there about 15 years ago. Though Constitution of India, for example, I talked about compulsory education till age 14, but as per the census, as far as India is concerned, only about 69% of people are educated, and those who are knocking at the door of our seminaries and our congregations, our formation houses, and they, in one way or other, come with certain educational stuff. And the educational stuff and substance is something solid. Earlier, we also went through education. We also did collegiate university education. And but when I now look at today's educational scenario, and the education system has gone through a transformation, and things are now made available in a very, very what we call magnanimous way, and accordingly, education has got certain depth. And I would have done what we call it, okay, master's degree or doctoral studies. But now I know, even those who have done UG and bachelor degree, so to say, and they also got certain stuff and substance, which in my time, I did not have that particular curriculum and syllabus, so to say. I can go on, but you know it. In case you got any doubts or clarification to ask, I'm at your service when I finish my presentation. And the third E is nothing but expression. So exposition, education, and the third is called expression. And the communication skills have now come up. And we find ourselves rather inferior. And formators, even the new young formators too will accept this one. Now the small young ones and the kids, they express quite plainly and quite stately and quite strongly and with a touch of transparency, and which was not the culture in the past. And we need to understand they are now come up with that particular one, and we need to thank God of life and giving that particular what we call way of proceeding in terms of communicating what they really feel within. Earlier we were taught before our higher-ups and before our superiors, before our bishops, we have to keep mum. Whatever they say, we can say only fiat. And but the gospel according to Luke chapter 1, verse number 34 will say, even the young girl, Mary of Nazareth, then she was told and announced by Archangel Gabriel that you will be conceived by the Holy Spirit. Mary of Nazareth, as per the biblical historians, who was at that time just 11 years, not even teenage, 11 years. And she asked the question, how can that be? That Mary 2,000 years ago. But afterwards, we were taught quite differently. I don't know about you, My early stage formation, my novice master said, we have to say yes. And with all my respect to my formators, I know that is what they also were taught when they were in their years of formation. But today, youngsters are no more of that particular character and caliber. They like to call spade a spade, expression. And we need to understand. And we need to appreciate. And we need to even grateful to them. And the last one is execution. Execution. Exposition, education, and third is expression and execution. Capacity building is up. And done attitudes up. And they know how to do it somewhere or other. And today there are channels and media opportunities are given such a way. They will press the button. They will come to know what to do. And they will do it and achieve it. Achieve it. And again, that we need to really acknowledge that particular done attitude and approach on the part of the upcoming generation. Good. I'm going to now go into the fourth one, the last one, so that I will finish in another 5 minutes time. Then we'll have solid time, about 15 to 20 minutes, for you to ask any clarification and further explanations going by your experience. Good. The fourth one comes like this. Namely, I'm synthesizing and searching. Synthesizing and searching. Synthesizing and searching. And what does it mean? There are two things put together. I like to synthesize all that I studied. Though there are a number of things can be said, but I limited myself to put in a nutshell. And I prepared also a page, A4 size page. All the important points that I shared, I have put over there. And in course of time, Father Nitya will send you by WhatsApp this page. So that even if you have missed any point here and there, you will get it in a one page. I don't follow PowerPoints, I'm sorry. But I follow, and I suppose you follow my points. No PowerPoints, but points were there. But the A4 paper will give you just one page. And there, I like to know, put the more thoughts there, and I like to synthesize it. And what is that one? Synthesizing just 2 notes. The first note is this one. Namely, we generally say the youth or the younger generation is the future of ours, of our congregation, We need to make a big shift. They are the now, the present of the society. They are the now and the present of the church. They are the now and the present of the congregations and the institutions and institutes and religious orders. They are the present of the mission of God. I synthesize. As I said earlier, they also formatted to us. As I said earlier, they are something to convey to us. As I said earlier, we need to listen to them. As I said earlier, they have certain challenges to place before us. As I said earlier, we need to go through certain conversion. All put together, they are not the future. They are present. And they are now of our time. And there we need to stand under, as I said earlier. And so that we served through the ministry of formation. And especially when you are involved in the early stage of formation, all the more this particular approach is a must. The later stages of formation, even if you want to stand above, and they will say, please come down. Because today youngsters are, as I said earlier, outspoken. Whereas a younger, what we call the early stages of formation, they may or may not say. But we need to today, as we synthesize a presentation, I like to now underline that particular dimension. Namely that we need to really take the young ones as the nerve of our time. And not just future. They are future, who says no? But they're much more. They are now. The second synthesize. What is that one? And we need to really ask them to challenge us all the more critically so that we will serve them creatively. Criticism from their side, creativity from our side, so that our creativity becomes a response, and that will also change us for better. And we also contribute our contribution so that they also change for better. In the process, mutually, they grow in grace, and we grow in our commitment, and much more we grow in our contribution to God's mission. I have got other things to say, but I like to end here. That I have got 3 questions to give. That is called searching. Searching. But I will searching. Synthesizing, I have already concluded. But searching, I will, in course of time, give you 3 questions, which is also I put on this A4 paper, which will be given to you through a WhatsApp. But before ending, I need to say a word on those 3 questions for your homework, so that before we meet tomorrow, you also do some homework, so to say, so that we come prepared for tomorrow's topic in the light of today. And today, concluding here, at least I am concluding here my presentation on the given topic, understanding the youth of today. I tell you, I exactly taken 58 minutes. I began at 6:10. Now my watch says it is 7:08. 58 minutes I have concluded. Now the ball is in your court. I call upon for Nithya.
Yes.
Yes.
And Reverend, Pastor Ben to help me.
Yes, Father.
Yes. Dear friends, we are really excited about I think the words are coming from his heart. It's not just a planned talk like other thing, but it's completely coming from the heart, depth of the heart, and coming out of his own experience of the past 30 plus years of moving the formators and the national, international level, also the Jesuit order, and also convictions. It comes with the convictions of variety of struggles, challenges we are facing. And he ends with a hope